Welcome back, guys. Today you guys are gonna have a sneak peek at how I sew a face mask. So this is the material that I'll be using. This is African cotton print, and this is the pattern that I'll be using today. So we're gonna place the pattern onto the wrong side of the material with the right sides facing each other inwards, and we're gonna pin the pattern onto the material just like this, folded in half. Here I'm just going to place the pattern onto the wrong side of the material onto the fold, and we're just going to pin it down. So here it's pinned down, and by doing this we're going to get two of the pattern, two cut pieces of the pattern. So after I cut it, this is what we have, and we're just going to take out the pins carefully to not tear up the pattern. And voila, we have our two cut pieces of the pattern. These two pieces are gonna make one side of the mask. We need another pair to make the whole mask. This material is very light, so I am going to place interfacing into one of the sides, one of the faces of the mask. These two pieces are going to make one face, and we need another two pieces to make the other. So now we have our two cut pieces of the mask, the faces of the mask. Now we're going to cut the pellon. This is a soft pellon. This is what I have right now. I couldn't find the proper one that I usually use. This grade is very soft. The one I usually use is a medium grade. It's a little heavier than this one, but we're gonna use this today because this is what I have. This is the sticky side, which is gonna be what sticks onto the material. So we have to cut a pattern. Well, cut two patterns of the pellon. So we have to make sure that the wrong side of the pattern is facing the sticky side of the interfacing as seen here. So I'm gonna use the cut pieces onto it and match that to my pattern. So this is how we have to cut. So I place it onto the sticky side and fold it in half so that we get our two pieces needed. And this is how it is. This is what we need, and we just pin it down and cut it from there. So here we are with the cut interfacing. This is it. So we're going to carefully remove the pins as before, being careful not to tear the pattern. So this is the hard part inside and the sticky part outside, the graded part which we're going to iron onto the material. So we got to get one of those faces, one of the two cut patterns, and place it onto our cut pellon. Make sure they fit properly onto each other with the graded side facing the wrong side of the material. And we're just going to iron this. We're going to make sure they're aligned properly. Make sure that it's in place, because when it sticks you can't really take it out, especially since this is the soft one, it will tear. And also this is the soft grade, so it is easier to burn, so we don't want to keep the iron onto the pillow. So we're not gonna keep it on too long. Just tap it along until it sticks, and then we iron it onto the other side, the right side of the material, to keep it firm. So I'm going to go ahead and do this and get back to you guys. So this is it, guys. We have it nicely ironed. This is one face and we have the other face. One face with the interfacing onto it. This is how it is. It gets the material more body. I kind of had a mishap. Yes, the iron was apparently too hot. So as soon as I placed it on it, I got a little burn. But we're gonna go ahead and use it. It's not bad. Previously, I said yes, just pat the iron onto it, onto the pillow itself. But from experience, I advise with this pillow that you strictly stick to the right side of the material and just iron onto it and make sure the pillow sticks. Do not place the iron onto the pillow because this is too soft. So to begin our sewing, we place right sides together. So we're going to sew along here at 5/8 seam allowance, 3/8 seam allowance. We're gonna sew at a 3/8 seam allowance. Do not forget right sides together, right sides facing each other, and we're sewing along the wrong side. So we have our other side here where we are going to do just that, 3/8 seam allowance. So here I have both faces of the mask pinned down, right sides facing each other. So after we sew down the two faces of the mask, we sew them each. We clip the curved edges of the mask. You clip the curved parts. This is what you do. Clip them. For the beginners, this is called clipping. Or you could open up the seam and iron it downwards. But I rather just clip. It's quicker, easier. But you have the option of ironing. So this is lycra material. This is what I am using to make the earpiece for the mask. It's a stretchy material. It's very durable and comfortable. I'm using 7 inches of this material. 7 inches by 1 inch long. Before sewing this onto the mask, we have to stretch it out. So we just pull it, tug it a little, as I'm doing here, and you pull it along the way. Little by little, you stretch it out. You stretch it out along the way, and it just curls up nicely inwards. So we stretch it out as much as we can, stretch it out nicely, and then this is it. This is how it becomes. Now we have all the components for the mask. We begin sewing. So we have our two faces of the mask and the two pieces of lycra. So now we place the two faces of the mask together, right sides facing each other and wrong side facing outwards. This is where we are gonna sew. So we line them properly and we fit the lycra pieces in between. We carefully carefully place the lycra in between the edges, where the two ends of the faces meet. So, and we carefully put the lycra in a position that the curved part won't poke out. As you can see, I am placing the curved part facing the opposite side. It's not facing in or out, but laying on a side. So we pin it down. We pin down the lycra in between the two faces, and this is how it looks. This is how it looks. So we repeat that for both sides. We pin down the lycra on both sides of the mask. So we pin along the sides and we leave a small opening, so that we can flip it over. So now we simply sew along these sides of the mask with the same 3/8 inch seam allowance. So after we have sewn along the sides, the small opening, this is where it is. Yes, just gonna show you how it looks. So basically I already clipped the edges, but we could have left it to clip after we sewed this. I usually do it before, but it's advisable to do it after, to avoid the stitches opening up after we sew it. Yeah. So this is how it looks, guys, after we've sewn the edges. So I am going to just nip out the ends, the 4 ends of the mask. I'm just gonna nip it out, notch basically. We're just gonna do 4 notches. So after we make sure that the inside of the mask is perfect, all notches and clips are done, we flip it over. Just simply push it through the little opening, and this is how it looks. Just carefully take your time, make sure all seams are in place, no opening. Yes. You can try it on to see how it fits here, and you check out the earpiece. If it's too tight, you can pull it a little more to stretch it out, and if it's too big, we tie a knot at the end. We've done with all the sewing. So now we're going to simply take a pointed object. Here I'm using a pen to just poke along the sides inside through the hole. I'm just gonna poke along the sides of the mask to make sure there are no openings in the seams, and push out all the parts, like the edges, push them out. So now we're going to neatly tuck in the opening, the small opening that we have. We're going to neatly tuck it in and pin it down in order for us to sew along the edges of the mask. We are now going to do our top stitch. The finishing stitch would be a top stitch, a 1/4 inch seam allowance all around. So this is how it looks after we pin it down. As we sew, we gradually remove the pins just before we get to it. So we sew, remove the pin, then continue, and we go ahead and do that all around. These two tips of the mask, the top and the bottom opposite sides, the bulkier parts, you would have to carefully take your time along there. You would either have to manually use the needle or use a bigger needle. I'm using a size 14, so I would have to use it manually in to prevent bending or breaking of the needle. So here we have our finishing product, and we have some loose threads along the way, so we just have to trim it off. We trim off the excess thread. So voila, here we have our finished mask. This is the finished product, people. Let's try it on. It's a little slack for me. It's good, but a little slack. So I'm just going to tie the edges, tie the ends of the lycra. This is how you tie it. So that's it for the video, guys. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more of my videos.